All right, let's get started. Welcome everybody to the January roundtable. My name is Beth Golick from Ministry. My colleague Lara is here as well. And we are really excited for this topic. And I see some experts that I know on my screen, so this is really exciting. So the idea is we're talking about creating sensory spaces today. And we can talk about them in general, and we can also specifically address how do you create a sensory friendly experience, a sensory space, when you don't actually have a dedicated space. So how many of you fall into that category where you're looking for, your church would like to have some kind of sensory space, but you don't actually have a dedicated space? And I'll raise my hand for that. So at our church, we do have a sensory room, but it's each Sunday we build it, we bring it in. So that is, so this is definitely a subject that hits close to home for me. So, all right, well, let's just start it off with, and again, we have some experts on here, so I'm very happy to see them, but would anybody like to start with either a question or a suggestion? And then there were some folks who couldn't join us who have sent me some info ahead of time. So, but I'll start by just asking if anybody wants to kick us off. Yes, Barb.
Okay, ironically, we just released Sensory Break Rooms video today at Wonderful Works. So I will probably take this when this discussion is done and put it in that same guide for everyone. But what I want to say is at our church, we've done sensory areas in a lot of different ways. We do have a sensory break room dedicated, but we also had in our main kids area, just little corners that were part of the room. And I think it's really important that you have a dedicated space, that it's the same every week, whether that's a separate room or even just apart. Because when a kid is feeling overwhelmed, then your volunteers are also feeling overwhelmed. They need to know what to do and where to go. So it doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be fancy, but you need to have those visual boundaries. And you also need to have consistent guidelines on how to use that area. And so I thought I would just encourage people, any church can have a break area that can work.
Absolutely. So I'm hearing a couple things here. First of all, just FYI, we do always post these recordings on our Vimeo and YouTube channels, and we will include a link to the video or whatever materials you have from Wonderful Works. We will make sure that gets posted when we post this video, because I think you always have such great resources. So thank you. But what I'm hearing is having a consistent space, and this doesn't have to be like a wing, okay? This could be an area in the classroom, but when a student or a volunteer knows where they can go when they're experiencing sensory overload, that right there reduces anxiety. When you know that you have control over making that step towards, whatever. They may not even need the space if they know that it's there.
Right.
So thank you. I think that's a great idea. So being consistent, and it can be a corner in the room. It doesn't have to be a separate room. So thank you, Barb. It's an excellent point. Charla.
Yeah. Hey, Beth. I'm Charla. I'm an occupational therapist, so this is kind of my jam.
This is definitely her jam. And those of us who are Night to Shine churches will have seen her new video. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh, thanks, guys. So I do have a lot of resources out that are free on our website. It's overcomerministries.com, and you guys are welcome to use those. It's about, we have a whole series on a portable sensory kit, which I agree with Barb. The consistency is huge. And I think one of the problems that churches and really anybody often has with sensory tools is, they're seen as a toy often by people because they don't understand them. And I think the reason that can be is because of that lack of consistency. because there is kind of a learning curve for everyone in using the sensory tools. So if you have that consistency, and it doesn't have to be fancy. In fact, I definitely agree with Barb and Beth that very simple things in every place in the church. So portable things that you can take with you, I really recommend that. And things that are very, just you can put in the corner of a room are wonderful, because then, like you said, they're familiar for the student and the volunteer. They know where they are, they know how to use them. And it's inexpensive that way too. It's not like this huge thing that you have to have. And I don't, sensory rooms are great too. And sometimes you absolutely need those, but really, I think the goal most of the time is to keep a person in the room with the learning, with the, all the other kids or, students. And I think the best way to do that is to provide what they need in the classroom. And what I find too is that a lot of our, typical kids will use those sensory tools as well. And so it's that universal design property too. It's like it takes the stigma out of it, and everybody can use it that needs it. And it's not a big deal if anybody uses it. Everybody knows how to use it. They just go and get it if it's right there in the room and easy to grab.
Yeah, that's, Charlotte, that reminds me, so this is sort of related, but when you said that, anybody in the room can use those tools and it's, not a big deal. Our student ministry had the Let's Talk class, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Which is like, very nerve-wracking if you're the parent that's attending the class, or the high school or middle school or whatever it is. And so our student ministry brought in like fidgets at each table to give students and their parents something to lessen the anxiety that was happening over the topic. Okay. Yes, I love that. So great. Thank you for sharing. And yes, Overcomer Ministries, I highly recommend that everybody checks out their links, which we will also include in the when we post this on Vimeo and YouTube. Thank you. What else?
Hello.
Hi, Alan.
Yes. Both of the previous speakers gave names of organizations, but they said it so fast.
Yes.
Didn't catch it.
Yes.
And
okay.
I'm blind, so if it's in the chat, I won't be able to see it either.
Right. So we haven't even put it in the chat yet. We're kind of behind here, but I will. So Barb Stanley is from Wonderful Works Ministry with a Y. Yes. Ministry. Yes. And what's the best way? Because I know you're on Facebook and you have a website. What's the best way for people to reach you, Barb?
At our website, wonderfulworksministry.org.
Is it work or works?
Works with an S.
So Wonderful Works with an S, ministry with a Y.org.
Mm-hmm.
And then Charla, so it's CHARLA, Holst, is with Overcomer Ministries with an S. And I'm guessing you're overcomerministries.com. Overcomerministries.com. So Overcomer, OVERCOMER, ministries with an S.com. Thank you, Alan. And then, of course, there's keyministry.org, but you all know.
Right.
That. Okay. Who else would like to share, or would you like me to read from, I'm going to go ahead and read what Abigail shared. So she's probably not on the roundtable. She didn't think she could make it, but she wanted to offer a suggestion of what her small church has done. Our church building is smaller, and there are no spare rooms or closets available to become a sensory room. So we created a bin of sensory items instead. It's mostly different kinds of fidgets, some calming items, and a couple pairs of noise-canceling headphones, but the whole bin can slide under a chair in the space behind the sanctuary. That space can see the sanctuary through windows and hear the service through speakers, so anyone who needs a break can still feel like they're part of the service. Then everything gets tucked away so we can use that room for fellowship. Often you'll see adults with mental health diagnoses and little ones struggling to sit through the sermon using the bin. It's definitely used every single week. Hope this helps. So yeah, so that's the whole idea of keeping people still, in community, in the classroom or the sanctuary or whatever, but allowing them to have that sensory break while still being in the room. And that's another example of, this is not a dedicated space that we have, but we're using our existing space and making it work. So I appreciate that. Who else would like to share or have a question? Yes, Kristen, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Yes, okay, another one of our experts is on. Okay.
I met with Ministries with an S, and we have created some tools and resources that you can take your environment and make them more sensory friendly. So for both the classroom, like children's ministry classroom, that's where my background is, and then also for big church and how you can maybe either make your large group time in your children's ministry or your big church more sensory friendly. So we have those in our KidMin kit, and I can put the link in the chat.
Perfect. Okay, so Kristen is with Ministries, so that's WITH ministries.org.
Yeah, sorry, I
.org.
muted.
Okay, so with ministries.org, and so she has some great. They have some great resources as well. Let's talk a little bit about what are some of your favorite items that are included in either your, like if you have sensory bags to go, like that, students or volunteers can grab if you're on the move or in a classroom or heading into the sanctuary. What are some of your favorite things to go in there? If you do have either a separate space or a space, like let's say maybe in children's ministry in the back of the classroom type of thing, what are some of your favorite items in there? And I'll share 3 of my favorites. Okay. So one is, so everybody knows about poppets, and who doesn't love a good poppet, right? So for a while, and I don't know if there still are, but Costco was selling these humongous poppets. So they were kind of in the shape of a rainbow, and it would be 2. So it would be like a full circle, but it's 2 pieces. So 2 semicircles, half circles. Okay, you can picture. But they're big. I mean, they're like probably 24 inches across, maybe. And so it's like the perfect, like nobody who sees it can walk by without just, popping a thing or 2. I mean, everybody, not just students in children's ministry. But it's big enough, like if you put it on your lap, it's almost like it's an activity in and of itself that for whatever reason works even better than the little fidgets, the little poppets. So that's one of my favorite things. My other favorite is a crash pad. And there's one that's, I think it's 5 feet by 4 feet. And Lara, if at some point you would be able to throw the link in the chat. This has been so great for us on Sunday mornings. We do not have a dedicated space, so I haul it, I drag it into the classroom from a storage area each Sunday, but it just provides that, it's kind of like that visual boundary, and then just like this, like for those who need that little bit of sensory, on their bodies, it's just a great place to take a break. And it's not misused. I mean, it's like people know when they need it, and to me it was worth it was a little bit of money, but to me it was worth it. So Lara has shared in the chat how you can buy it, and that is, I believe, probably an Amazon affiliate link, I'm guessing, for Key Ministry. And then Charla.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I
No,
was
go
just gonna
ahead.
say, I've made some crash pads if you're on a tight budget. I go to upholstery shops and ask for their scraps, and then take 2 duvet covers. Like you want to have 2 if you can, because you want to stuff one full of the scraps, and you want to never have to take those out again because that's a huge mess. And then you want to put another one over it that you can easily remove and then wash it. So it's like two huge pillowcases, those
Okay.
duvet covers. And usually upholstery shops, if you tell them what you're using it for, are glad to get rid of those scraps and give them to you. So like that foam rubber is
Yeah.
awesome. And I've made quite a few of those for absolutely very cheap. Like I just get the duvet covers that are on sale, you know, I mean like $20 and you've got yourself a crash pad.
That's amazing. Okay, so that's like a huge tip, but I'm cracking up because you said upholstery shops. Let me tell you what I heard. I heard go to a poultry shop.
Oh.
I'm thinking, what in the world are you doing, Charlotte? Okay, upholstery. That makes me feel so much better. That is a great idea. So that's fabulous because that's a very cost-effective way of making a crash pad. I love that. Thank you. And do not fill it with chickens. Okay. My other thing that I love for a sensory room, I love this for children's ministry in general. And I believe Lara has shared a link, but do any of you use the floor tiles? Like they can be, the ones I have are 12 by 12, but they can be bigger. But they're like liquid floor tiles. And so when you step on them, they're different colors and they make a, they like kind of reminds me of a lava lamp from back in the day, but I feel like this has been really useful in our children's ministry setting. And this is maybe a little bit less sensory than just kind of classroom management in general, but if somebody kind of needs that like distraction to get them off of where they're currently spinning, ask them to step on their favorite color. Or if you have a child who's maybe having a hard time coming into their classroom, have the tiles leading a pathway from the hallway into the classroom. So those are two ways that I use the tiles, but they're pretty easy to store. They're kind of heavy when you have a whole set of them, but that's one of my faves. So, and that's another one that even like adults who have nothing to do with your ministry, if they see them, they can't help but step on them. So, all right, what else do we have to share?
Beth, we used to also have a sensory path in our classrooms. I mean, in our hallways getting to our classrooms, in the church where I worked. And the kids would get down the hall so much easier. There wasn't all the drama getting them down, and you could get them to step on their favorite color, the letter of their name, like all the different things, the flower petals. We had all kinds of different things, but that one was a really great way to get kids engaged. And then they could come in the hallway also if they needed a break.
So tell me what the sensory path looked like. What was it?
Oh, we had different ones. We had like the alphabet in circles. We had numbers.
Painted on a floor, or
it was stickers that stuck to the carpet, but you could also use those floor dots that are Velcro and just put a dot path on your floor. That would be a lot less expensive. And then they could hop from the red one to the green one like those kind of things. We had a flower that was like a sunflower that had the petals, and we had a big sunshine and a rainbow with clouds, and we had all kinds of fun things, but you could make it really simple, and it draws kids down the hall, and they don't realize that they're at their classroom if they're having drama until they're already at their classroom.
Right. Thank you. And then Charlotte, you had your hand up.
I'm sorry. I could talk so much on this. So
We want you to talk so much. That's why I was so excited.
A favorite of mine is a trampoline because it is really great for calming and alerting. And that's something I think sometimes we forget, that we want to think about both sides of the sensory spectrum there, that some kids will need calming for sure, but then there's some kids that actually need alerting to help them get ready to learn and be a part of the class. And so trampolines actually, or any heavy pressure like that, especially that rhythmic movement on the trampoline, and it provides heavy pressure too, is wonderful. And you can get the round ones with the fold up handle, and those like mini trampolines are really pretty portable because like you can kind of just roll them along. and they're not very expensive, and they work for a lot of different sensory needs. So the little mini trampolines.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else use the mini trampoline? Yeah, Barb does. Okay, great. A few of you, Andrea, great. Thank you. What else? Yeah, Barb.
We found going on what you said, Charlotte, that it's really important that we met both the sensory avoiders and the sensory seekers needs, because I think a lot of times in churches, we think sensory break room means calm only. So we found one of the most important things to have, even when it was just in a corner of the classroom, was actual space, because we had a lot of kids on the autism spectrum that need to pace. And just putting up, like we had put up screen flex so that there was an open, you can see in, see they're okay, but it was, gave them like a dedicated space where they knew it was okay to pace or stim as much as they needed and still see the class, or even putting painter's tape down, say this is the place. And I think with that, one of the most important things, again, that you can do to make a sensory needs met successful is train your volunteers and educate them on that, because the average person doesn't understand that sensory seekers is also important. So we did a lot with training our volunteers that this is normal and this is okay and this is how you use it. And the last thing I'll say, well, probably not, but for this time, is the other thing I love is a visual timer, because especially if it's in your classroom and it's a corner, a visual timer and instructions for the volunteer on how to use the space. Because you'll find it helps the kids transition in and back out if they know what to expect, and they have that visual timer to help them. And that's a really key way of helping it be successful.
Thank you. So let's talk about visual timers. So Barb, if you could share kind of what your favorite visual timer, because there's different kinds. I mean, there's the hourglass kind, and I'm making motions with my hands. You guys can probably picture what I'm trying to say here, but
yeah.
So Barb, can you share about that, please?
Yeah, it really depends on the situation. What I found personally is when we did I'll call it the mini space, break space within the classroom. We actually bought one of those visual timers off of Amazon that looks like an old-fashioned clock, but with the red.
Yes,
And
that's what I was trying
that
to say with my
outside.
hands. I couldn't come up with the words, but yes, thank you.
Yeah. So that way, no matter who was in the room, whatever volunteer was in there, they would know how to use it. It was very easy and the kids could see it. But for our buddies, when they were paired with a child that they knew was probably going to need to take breaks, we have everyone download the Children's Countdown app on their phone, which is free. And we use that, and the kids love that, because that actually, you can hear the ticking sound, but then it will show like a fun picture as it
duck one or something. Is that what that was? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the clock will start showing more and more what the picture is, and then it has like this fun like explosion when the alarm goes off. And our kids have just really, really enjoyed that. So those are the two things.
So when you're using that, like for instance, in 3 minutes we're going to head to large group. So you're using that as like a one-on-one buddy student type of thing.
Well, we use it in a variety of different ways, but yeah. So typically what I do, whether you're taking them to the break area for a while, is I will ask the kids, how much time do you want? And I give them two choices. So I'll say, do you want 5 or 6 minutes in the break area? And then they pick one, and then you let them set it. And then once it gets closer, they can see it and leave. And I think it helps them feel more in control, and it helps bring the anxiety down. And I can't stress this enough, but I really think the biggest key is getting the anxiety down of your volunteers. So all of those things, when they feel prepared and they understand it and it's simple, they're feeling calm, will help the kids feel calmer.
Yeah. So as usual, per usual, Barb has given us like so many great things. So I want to reiterate 2 of them. One is, equipping your volunteers and teaching your volunteers so that, first of all, so they're aware and they can give grace and, set expectations, boundaries, and all that. but also that gives them the confidence to really serve well in the classroom. The second thing I want to point out, did you notice how she gave the student a choice, but they were two, preferred choices. So, but the student had the, that gave them the ability, what's the word I'm looking for? They got to own a choice, I'm losing grasp of my language here, but they got to make a choice. But both choices were perfectly okay in Barb's world. So, so I really like that, and I think that's super important.
I also had a meeting to attend, and it's crazy.
So okay, great, thank you. Anybody else would like to share? Let me think. What about in some of you I know use sensory bags, kind of a grab and go kind of thing. So obviously you cannot fit a crash pad and a trampoline in a sensory bag. So what are some items that you might put in a sensory bag so that's available for any student, any family, any volunteer to just pick up and take with them within whatever worship setting they're in? Yeah, Charla.
Again, shut me down if I'm saying too much.
I will not.
As an occupational therapist, and I worked in the public schools for a long time too. And so I did a lot of field testing, I guess you would say, on what I felt like really worked and held up. And my goal is kind of like to provide inexpensive things in the kit so that if they disappear, it's not a big deal. You can replace them easily. Things that work for a lot of different sensory needs. So they have multiple purposes, can be used for children, adults, kind of like broad spectrum, trying to hit as many people as possible with as many needs as possible, and that they're very durable, that they're easy to clean, and that they work. And so I've literally, this is all free on our website, but I have the list like that is what I recommend. And then I have links to it on Amazon. We don't make anything off of those. It's just the things that I have found that really work really well. And then you can print off this PDF, and it also has like on the back side, kind of instructions on what to use when. And so like, for example, like with the fidgets, you want to hit as many sensory areas as you can. So you want something that's kind of sticky, you want something smooth, you want something spiky, you want something that you can, that's kinetic, that you can move. You want to hit a lot of different areas with the fidgets. So like the fidgets that I really like are ones that look least like a toy, if I can. Now that's hard to find because it seems like the makers of these things usually make them look like a toy. And so it's a little hard. But like the gel balls, I wish they weren't a ball shape because everybody just, instinctively wants to throw a ball. But I also pick things that are very quiet for that kit because I know a lot of them are being used in the sanctuary or in the classroom. So that's another one of my criteria, is that it has to be very quiet. But like these gel balls that Impressa makes, Impressa has a really good line of like the good grief, I can't think either. The sensory strings, and then also the gel balls that are pretty, they're pretty indestructible. I've had those gel balls last a really long time. You can throw them in the dishwasher and then just kind of shake them up in a bag of cornstarch and they're good to go again. Like their spiky loops also are really great because you can squeeze them. So they got the movement. They've got a lot of great tactile input. Adults, kids really seem to be drawn to that one a lot. I'm like you, Barb, I really like the bubble timer because it's very calming, but you can also use it for a timer aspect and all the different ways that you would use a timer. So it has a lot of purposes, and people are just really drawn to those bubble timers. So it's a great distraction as well. If you're, kind of seeing someone spinning out of control, it's a great way. I really like a very small weighted item because you don't have to worry about a lot of the safety issues that you would have with a weighted blanket. So, not that a weighted blanket is a bad thing, but the smaller weighted item generally is just as effective if you use it right, and is less expensive and very portable, and it's not the stigma of having a huge blanket on you. Like, I think if I can, I don't want to point anybody out, but I think Lindsay, it looks like maybe you have one on, which I love. And so things like that might be, or maybe it's a heating pad. I'm not sure, but
It is both. It's a
Okay,
heating pad
yes.
because my office is freezing, but it is also nice and yeah. I
Those
like
are my favorite, actually, that you can put in the freezer or put in a microwave, and they're also like about 5-6 pounds. Those are wonderful if you can find them. I have a link on our website that has it, and I'm like blanking on the name of it right now. But anyway, so things like that you know you can use for a lot of different purposes, like the weighted pad there that she has, like that can be heated or cool. Like cold is also a super calming strategy. Literally just some ice in a cup, or a lunchbox ice pack. Or I will often pull the guts out of a stuffed animal and stick a ice pack in there and put it in the freezer, and those are really nice to have. And you could just pick those up super cheap and make those really easily. You could also do that as a warming buddy, do the same thing, like, put one of the rice packs in there that you can warm up, kind of thing. So things like that have the multiple purposes, I really love. And yeah, I've got like, of course you want the noise reducing headphones. I recommend the cheapest ones because really we want people to be able to hear still. We just want to bring that noise level down. So like, I get mine at Harbor Freight generally, or just, kind of keep an eye out, but it seems like Harbor Freight's generally a pretty good place to get a good cheap headphone. And so yeah, those are some of and the wiggle seats, like the yoga discs, those things. If you look on Amazon for a yoga disc, you can get them much cheaper than if you call it a wiggle seat. And they're literally the same thing.
The seating that has worked really, really well for a lot of my students. So I think they're called, is it Big Joe? They're beanbag chairs, but they're chairs. They're not like beanbags, they're chairs. But it provides just the right sensory input for a lot of my students. I know Walmart carried them for a while. I think they're called Big Joe, and they come in different sizes. But that's been that has worked really well in our large group setting. We bring our kids into an inclusive worship setting. But that seating has worked better for them than sitting in a folding chair or sitting on a dot on the floor, which is where a lot of our elementary kids sit. So yeah, yes, Andrew, I'm going to call you next, but I'm just giving everybody a reminder. So everything that Charlotte just mentioned is at overcomerministries.com. Okay, thank you. Andrea.
Well, I just wanted to share this. I just pulled it off the shelf in my office. Most of you all know how important all of these things are already, but if there's new people on here, if you see this squishy, you see how it's all just like squish, coming apart, whatever.
So just describe it for those of us who can't see it.
It's one of the foam squishies that you can squeeze. Yeah. So we had a mom that came to our mom's retreat. It's been about 3 years ago now. And the week after the retreat, she accepted Jesus as her savior. I got to go over to her house and take her lunch and sit down and be there with her for that. Well, she started bringing her 4 children. And the little girl that has disabilities, she really struggled at first with transitions, and just it was a new place. She had never been to church. And we quickly realized that she needed this. This was her thing. She needed a foam squishy every time. And this is after about 8 weeks of her using it. This is what it looked like. And so I just keep this on the shelf in my office as a reminder that sometimes all a kid needs is a foam squishy to be able to be successful at church. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
I love that. I love that you have that as that reminder. That's really cool. And just to help people visualize what Andrea's holding, it reminds me of like the keychains that like boaters have because they float. Doesn't it kind of remind you of that sort of? Okay, cool. We have a couple things in the chat that I want to shout out. So Lindsay shared that Big Joe is a local company in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is where Lindsay is from and where she lives. And she did provide a link in there to one that they have that they love. And then let's see, Kristen shared the Velcro dot thing that she was talking about. I think, Kristen, that was part of the sensory path thing. Yes. Okay, so she shared a link to that, and it's on Amazon, and it's called 30 pieces 6-inch classroom floor dots, floor stickers, multicolor classroom dot spots for lineup markers, self-adhesive vinyl stickers for preschool and kindergarten elementary teachers, chic color office products. So we'll provide those links, and you all can do some shopping. Yeah, and if anybody, if you need accessible, if you need me to send you these links, just let me know. Okay, but we will post these on when we post the recording. All right, what else? Good stuff here. Yes, Aubrey, welcome.
I have a question. If any of you have like a written out guideline and instructions that is easily readable in the classroom, that's understandable to volunteers if they're like new and they haven't gotten time to train, what does that look like and all the verbiage that comes with that?
All right, I'm gonna call on Charlotte, I think.
Yeah, our videos actually, we have 2 different video series. One is Become a Sensory Friendly Church, and the one I would really recommend for the volunteers is Simple Sensory Tools for Church. And it's literally, we have like the QR codes on the thing here that you can print out on the website, the sensory toolkit, sensory starter tip sheet. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now, but the tip sheet, you can go on here and it's got the QR codes that goes to like usually they're about 6-7 minutes, and it teaches you how to use each tool. And so they can quickly pull that up on their phone, or, you could have the cards, this card hanging in the classroom so that they can look at it as well. It's got some instructions on the card as well. But those videos are really helpful because it's got pretty much everything I've said and more today is on there of, how to use those different tools. And I can't emphasize enough, like what everybody I think has been saying, like just have a few good items. Don't, go to Dollar General or wherever and buy a million fidgets. Just pick the few things that work, that, you have some alternative seating, have some good weighted items, have some great fidgets, because really if you have too many things, it creates that anxiety for the students as well as the volunteers. So if they, and really it makes it more of a toy than a tool. And that's the thing I always tell people too. This is, even when I give it to the kids, I'm like, okay, this is a tool, not a toy. And we want it to help you to be able to learn. If it's not helping you to learn, we're going to put it back. And so, and usually that novelty will wear off if you have that same thing every week. The first week the kids come, into the class was like, everybody wants one. And that's great. Let everybody use one. But then the second, third week, only the kids that need them are going to start to grab those. And then maybe somebody needs them one week and doesn't another. And you'll start to see that too. Like they're having a rough day for whatever reason, they're stressed out. Somebody that doesn't normally get one will pick one up. So it is interesting. Like I think just a few really great, carefully selected items is a lot better than a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah. Thank you. That is super good information. So Charlotte, I don't know if you're able to like grab a link to the PDF that you were holding up, but if you're able to put that in the chat, please do. Otherwise,
yeah, I can do that right now. I got the videos in there and I will put those.
Okay,
I'll put that on there as well.
Perfect. And then Lara, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. So some of these amazing people that have shared so much good information, like Barb and Charlotte and Kristen, these all happen to be speakers at the Disability in the Church conference coming up. So we're gonna do a little commercial break right here. So Lara,
yeah. Hey, as of, oh, don't make me do math right now. I'm making myself do math. this morning, like 3 hours ago, we sent an email to our thousands of subscribers that said registration for Disability in the Church Conference 2025 is open. And so go to disabilityinthechurch.com. Actually, you can. What I would encourage you to do is check your inbox first. It's going to help you kind of go through. Yeah. I mean, Beth, I've lost count, 80 plus, right? Speakers we have, workshops, quick takes, things like that. And let me just tell you something, friends. We have Beth and I, Steve, some other people have just, I mean, I feel like I know these speakers because I've like read their submissions and what they're going to be speaking on. Oh my, like I wish I could go to every single one of them. And so go to that website. You can go kind of shop for your sessions, right? Through a drop down feature and whatnot, and just look through them, register when you can, because those workshops will fill up fast because we do have, room seating and all that kind of thing. So register quickly. But yeah, we launched this morning. We're excited for Disability in Church at in DC this year. Hope to see you all there.
Yeah, and the cool thing, I mean, one of the cool things, there's a lot of cool things about the conference, but one of the cool things is that, like, look at your screen right now, and the people that are on your screen right now, many of those, you're going to see those people in person at the conference. We're going to be able to, like, meet each other in person, which is fantastic. And we've built a lot of networking opportunities into this year's conference. So we're pretty excited for that. All right. And yeah,
I'll drop that in the chat too, Beth.
Pardon me?
I'll drop it in the chat too.
Perfect. Thank you. And again, we'll post all these links. Welcome, Henry from Uganda. This is so cool. We've got an international crowd going on today. Awesome. And we actually have there's a whole group of pastors coming from Kenya this year that are speaking at the conference. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm very excited. All right, any other questions or comments or things you want to share? This has been a fabulous discussion. Yeah. Jay Jordan, yes. It looks like you're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, try again.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Hi, my name is Janet Jordan. I have an organization called Calculated Pathways, and we are in the Douglasville, Georgia, outskirts of Atlanta area. And one of the things that I want to share is, we help churches develop and create inclusive ministries as well. And one of the things that I'm doing right now is that I know that a lot of churches, a lot of times they don't have budget, and they sometimes use that as a reason, for not starting. And one of the things that we encourage them to do, hey, start an Amazon wish list, and we'll ask them to share that, wish list with their members, or they can, create a tree that people can pull from like they do at Christmas time. So, I just wanted to just kind of throw that out there, because when you see all of these different things, it can become overwhelming, for your ministry if you don't have, earmarked budget for certain things. But that's just a way to help to ensure that you get the quality items that you need for your sensory rooms.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that idea, Janet. So, and some of these items are as small as $5, some could be a couple $100, but like, what a great idea. And what a great way for, like, the church to come around the ministry, or just the idea of, hey, like, the body of Christ includes folks with sensory differences, and this is a way we can, just be one body and support each other. I love that. Thank you. I'm totally going to be copying that idea. Thank you. Any other last minute thoughts?
This is Lindsay.
Yeah.
I kind of have a question, I guess. So I work with churches that typically don't have a special ministry set aside for people with disabilities. It's more like we're trying to integrate folks into the life of the church. And one of the challenges is, like, you're working with people who really don't have much experience. And so, you know, the idea that a fidget is not a toy, like it just, the learning curve is so high. And if you like, I'm not on the ground with these churches, I like might have an hour consultation with someone. So I don't know, I guess I just struggle with like how to translate what this is to, you know, Joan, who volunteers as in the children's worship, like, you know what I mean? Yes,
Yeah.
Barb, I'd love to hear from you.
Barb also works at a denominational level. So Barb, tell us what you have to say.
Well, what I was going to say is what I have found to be helpful is start with meet them where they are. So for most people, when I was in school, I think I have some ADHD. Fidgets wasn't a thing, but I doodled. So asking someone like, when you have had a hard time sitting still, what have you done? And then they realize usually, oh, I had a coping mechanism. So to go from I doodle to someone uses a fidget makes it more relatable. And I'm going to put the video that we just released today in the chat too. This one was, it's about sensory break rooms for the sensory avoider and the sensory seeker. And so we really are targeting what that feels like. And it ends with asking the viewer, imagine which one are you, and then imagine you're forced to do the other one. And so when you're asking the people what their personal experience is, even though it looks a little bit different, that gives them the aha moment to like, oh, now I get it. So that's my advice. Start with their experience.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, Charla.
Yeah, so I do Zoom trainings across wherever and I do those basically as a love offering. So if your church or is willing to get together a group, I'm glad to do a Zoom training for your church. And then with the videos that we film, I've tried to make those in bite-sized pieces so that you can like email out like maybe one a week or one a month or something, and then maybe have a little discussion time that would be really short right after a Sunday service or something, so that you can say, hey, did you watch the video? Do you have any questions? We're gonna, try to start implementing this thing, and just kind of do it a little bit at a time, like Barb said, so it's not overwhelming, because yes, I get it. Both, like I said, I've worked in public school and the church for many, many, many years. And it is, even paraprofessionals in the school are not trained. And so we did a lot of training, even in that environment. So I totally get what you're saying, Lindsay. It's like you kind of have, like you said, Barb, you have to start where people are at, but just those bite-sized trainings so that they're not overwhelmed. But then if you want a more extensive training, like you have a morning or afternoon training where you can get your team together, I'm glad to do that over Zoom. And I try to make it really interactive, so it's not, but it is harder over Zoom. I would much rather be with you in person. So if you can, I would love to be with you. If you can get me there, that's awesome. I would do that too. But basically, yeah, just, those kind of, just building those kind of trainings into the life of your church. And then the how to become a sensory friendly church video series is great for the entire congregation. And I do a lot of that. Like right now I have a sinus infection. So I'm like, my, vestibular system is wackadoo, and I have terrible balance, and I have poor body awareness, proprioception every day of my life. So like, I try to build in a lot of examples like that. So like if you've ever had a sinus infection, you kind of know what it feels like to have vestibular issues and have difficulty, with different things, and kind of go into that and what that might feel like. And, if you've ever been on heavy medication and your senses are really dulled, you know what it's like to be under, so this different examples like that like Barb said, can be really helpful to people. Like, oh, this is not weird. This is, oh, I get this. This is even things I've experienced. But, some people have them every day, and that's really hard. And they kind of get that empathy too. So I feel like it's great even for an entire congregation to, again, you could put those in a, a bulletin or email or something that like, hey, let's listen to this all together this week and then maybe talk about it a little bit or something. And it kind of gives the whole body more empathy and understanding of why people might do the things they do that seem kind of weird to people, and kind of help with that. So
I love that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. All right, folks. Well, we're kind of closing in on time here. So I just want to thank everybody. We have some incredible links for you to check out. So give me until like tonight. I'll get all this loaded on Vimeo, when we'll be sure to have this available for you with all the links, so you can go back and check out some of these resources, these videos, do some shopping, whatever. And register for the conference and all the things. So just a reminder that we do this roundtable every month, the third Wednesday of every month. If you go to keyministry.org/events, you'll see what our topics are for the next 2 months. I don't remember what they are now, which is why I'm not going to say them. But since you're here, you're already registered. You'll get the link each month. And then just a reminder that on the first Monday of the month at noon Eastern time, we invite you to join us on a roundtable just kind of like this one, called Idea Share. And it's just an opportunity to connect with fellow ministry leaders. And it's just a source of encouragement and brainstorming. And, we don't have a topic ahead of time. We just kind of talk about what's going on in our ministries and how we can support each other. So thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed the conversation, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, everybody.